Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Get Paid for Your Pad, episode 87. Welcome, everybody. Today it's just me. It's Jasper. I am in Thailand on a cool little island called Koh Lanta. And I'm not interviewing anyone today. Today I wanted to get into a few different topics. I want to kind of update you guys on what I'm up to, what I'm working on. And first of all, I wanted to start with a Fiverr service that I recently started. It's a service where I check listings of Airbnb hosts on 17 different aspects, and I send them a report with suggestions on how to improve. Now, I've already done about 65, and I noticed that most of the Airbnb hosts that I reviewed, they all make the same mistakes. So I figured it'd be interesting for you guys, for me to sort of go through the most common mistakes that I see and also give some suggestions on how you can improve. So let's get into that first. So the Airbnb Listing Check, I start with the pictures, because pictures are the most important part of your listing. So the first thing I look at is quality. Now, generally, the quality of the pictures that I see are typically pretty good. I think most people these days are aware of the photography service that Airbnb has, and most people take advantage of it. And if they don't, they usually have pretty good pictures that they've taken themselves. I do see the odd iPhone picture in there sometimes, but even the iPhone has a pretty good camera now. So overall, it's pretty good. But what people do forget is they don't add enough pictures. They add a lot of pictures of their house, but they typically forget to add pictures of the neighborhood and the activities that guests can enjoy while staying at their place. And this is something that's also important, especially if one of the sort of best aspects of your listing is the location. Then you definitely want to show people what they can do there, because people aren't going to sit in your house the whole day. They're going to go out. They're going to go to little cafes. They're going to go to restaurants. They're going to do activities. And so you definitely want to add plenty of pictures of what people can do when they stay at your house. And sometimes if the activity is actually the highlight of your listing, let's say, for example, I reviewed a listing that was close to Disneyland, right? So the reason that people stay at that house is because they want to go to Disneyland. So then it makes sense to put your first picture, put a picture of a famous activity in Disneyland. Because when people are searching for accommodation when they go to Disneyland, now that's obviously like what they're interested in doing. So I think that would make sense. But most of the time, I do think you want to include, sort of put the first picture, you want it to be a picture of your house. And it should be a picture, the best picture that you have. You know, what's the best aspect of your house? But in some occasions, let's say you have like an amazing view or something, then you could think about putting that picture first. Now you can also get really creative with your pictures. One thing that I did recently, and one of the members in my Airbnb Academy Facebook group, Evelyn, she shared a number of tools that make it really easy to create a floor plan. And I've always had a floor plan, but I drew it, so it doesn't look very good because I'm not very good at drawing. So I used this tool called Floor Planner, and it's a free tool, and it's really cool. You can create amazing floor plans, and it's very easy to use. So I think it only took me about an hour or so to make mine, and it looks much better than the one that I used before. So shout out to Evelyn Badia, and thank you for sharing this. Another thing you can do is you can take a screenshot of your Wi-Fi speed, because fast internet these days is very important for people who travel. So, you can say on your listing that your internet is really fast, but a more credible and more accurate way of showing your internet speed is just to go to speedtest.net, run a speed test, and take a screenshot of the results, and then post that as a picture. So there's all sorts of ways to get creative with the pictures, but I think the most important ones are showing some pictures of the area, your favorite spots, your favorite restaurant, your favorite bar, and the activities that your guests can enjoy when they're staying at your place. Now, another thing that people tend to forget is to create captions for their pictures. And if they do, it's typically very factual. It's like, you see a picture of a bedroom and then it says bedroom, or it says, in the living room, it will say living room, couch plus TV or something. And that's just doesn't sound very appealing. It's too factual. So what you want to do is you want to just write a sentence that describes the experience that your guests can have in the picture, right? So, for example, I have a picture of my balcony, and then instead of saying, "Oh, there's a balcony with a table there where you can sit," I say something like, after a long day of sightseeing, my balcony offers a perfect place to have a cold beer and enjoy the late afternoon sun. So when people read that, they're going to think, hey, that sounds good. I kind of want to have a cold beer in the afternoon sun. Let's book this place. Cool. Let's go to the description and start with the title. I still see a lot of unappealing titles. So what you want to do is you want to really think, what is the best aspect of your listing? What's the number one reason that people should stay at your place? That should be in your title. Also, it's good to target a specific audience. So, for example, I have a house with 2 bedrooms, and the bedrooms are separated, and there's 2 outside walls in between. So it's there's a lot of privacy. You won't be hearing necessarily what the other couple's doing in the other bedroom, which is something that a lot of people appreciate. So that's why I chose the title Perfect for Couples. And so what happens is when couples are searching on Airbnb and they see this title, they see Perfect for Couples, they're immediately going to think, hey, we're a couple. This listing is perfect for us. Let's check it out. So, think about what type of guests does your house fit? What's your audience? And also you can think about what type of demographic you want to attract. It might be, in my case, it's couples. In your case, it might be families. It might be older people. It might be younger people. It might be singles. I don't know. It could be anything. But at least, you should think about it and maybe incorporate that in your title. Moving on to the description summary. Again, it's typically a little bit factual. So the description summary is the little bit of text that's right below your listing pictures. I think it says about this listing, and this is a really good place to just in a couple sentences describe why people should stay at your place. So again, I see a lot of factual summaries. So again, try to focus on the experience and not the facts, and also highlight your space, the best features as well. The description details, that's sort of the stuff that you can write below. So it's like the space and what your guests have access to, the neighborhood, etc. Now, most people write a pretty good description, but the one thing that most people forget is to make it a little bit easy to read. I see a lot of long texts, and those are not very appealing. When you look at like 20 sentences without any white spaces, then it feels like a lot of investment to start reading that, right? So what you want to do is you want to create short paragraphs and put a white line in between each paragraph, and every paragraph should be about 2 or 3 lines. And then you can also use bullet points, use like little stars and arrows, dashes, etc., just to make certain things stand out and to make it more digestible. Now, fairly recently, Airbnb has implemented a functionality to include the bed details. So if you go to Manage Listing and then Listing Basics, and you scroll all the way down, you'll see a section where you can specify exactly what type of bed you have. And I think this is definitely a no-brainer to add that, because the makes your listing more accurate, and people want to know what kind of bed they're going to sleep in, right? I mean, sleeping is very important when you're traveling. A comfortable night, a good night of sleep is worth a lot. So definitely make sure to specify what type of beds you have. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the pricing. And I think this is the number one thing that most people are still missing out on, a lot of income. I still see a lot, I'd say probably about 50% of the listings that I've looked at, people still charge the same price for the same day. So what's going to happen if you do that? Well, demand for your space will vary over time, right? And there's going to be a high season, there's a low season, and there's maybe peak dates as well, like Christmas, New Year's, etc. So if you charge the same price, then what happens when demand is high, you're going to be fully booked, but you're undercharging. You know, let's say you're charging $100 for every single day throughout the year. Now, during high season, you might be able to charge 150 or maybe even 200. Who knows, right? So during high demand times, you'll be fully booked, but you're missing out on extra income because you're not charging enough. And then during the low season, maybe during the winter, you won't be fully booked because $100 is actually too much. So during those times, you may want to lower it. Now, the same is true for weekdays versus weekends, and also special dates that I mentioned. Now, it's not just Christmas, by the way. It could also be if there's a conference in town or a big music festival. So you really want to adjust those prices to demand, and this can significantly improve your income. There's a reason why hotels do this. You know, you go on booking.com and you fill in some different dates in your area, and you'll see that the prices vary a lot. Now, by the way, in booking.com, you can also see the percentage of rooms that are booked during a certain time. So it's also a good indication of what the demand is during those times, how many people are visiting your area. But to be honest, calculating all this stuff yourself is pretty hard. I tried it for a while, and it takes a lot of time, and it's just really, there's too many variables, you know, there's too many factors for you to be able to calculate an optimal price. So the better way to do it is, first of all, you can use the price tips that Airbnb provide. Now, I think using those is a lot better than just charging the same price or trying to figure something out yourself. But what I've seen so far is I don't think that the pricing tips are very good. I mean, they're better than doing it yourself, but I think they could definitely be improved. So what I personally use is I use an automated pricing app. I use Beyond Pricing, and what Beyond Pricing does is they connect to your calendar and they automatically update all the prices. Now, how do they calculate the prices? Well, they have a team of data scientists who use all sorts of stats like visitor data and even like airline, like sold seats on airlines. They use hotel bookings. They use other Airbnb listings. So they have all this data, and they have all these smart people, and they have all these algorithms that they use to determine the best price. So I've been using it, and my income's definitely gone up. So I mean, I really recommend either use Beyond Pricing or Everbooked. Everbooked is also really good. It's just not available in Europe, so I can't use it. But I definitely recommend you check those out. Now, there's another one called Price Labs. I have no experience with it, but it is available worldwide, I think. So if you are in an area where Everbooked or Beyond Pricing is not available, then I do recommend you use Price Labs. By the way, if you want to try Everbooked or Beyond Pricing, just go to getpaidforyourpad.com/blog, and if you look at one of my blog posts, you'll see a bunch of banners in the sidebar, And if you use those links, you get some extra benefits. Like for Beyond Pricing, you get an extra $60 credit, and for Everbooked you get 3 months free trial instead of 1 month. And I also get a small commission. So if you do use the links, then thank you very much for the support. You can also just use our code GPFYP for Everbooked and GP4YP for Beyond Pricing. All right, so let's move on to the listing features. Most people have instant book enabled, which is good, but what a lot of people forget is to add a guidebook to the listing. So if you go to manage listing, your guest resources guidebook, you can specify some local recommendations. And there's no reason not to do this. I'm sure that Airbnb looks at these things when they calculate the search ranking, but also it just shows that you are knowledgeable about your area. And I think local recommendations it's one of the reasons why people stay in Airbnb places, right? They want to get those local recommendations. So Airbnb provides you with the functionality to use it, and to provide your guests with this information. So you should use it. The next thing I wanted to talk about is responding to reviews. I'd say 75% of the listings that I've looked at, people do not respond to reviews, or they only respond when they have a bad review. Now, responding to reviews takes maybe like 10-15 seconds, but it really communicates that you're a good host. Just imagine you're using Airbnb. Imagine you're a traveler, you're a guest, and you're looking at some listing, and you notice that the host responds to all the reviews. Now that gives off a really good impression of the host. That means the host is like active, it's engaged, and so when you're staying with the host, you can expect the host also to be engaged when you're there. Like if you have an issue, if there's any problems, then that person is probably going to help you. So it just communicates a lot of good things, and it doesn't take very much time. So there's really no reason not to do it. All right, let's move on to the profile. Most people have a pretty good picture of themselves, but where most people can improve is really the profile content. I've seen a lot of profiles that are either empty or it's like one paragraph. Now, the reason why the profile is important is because when people stay with Airbnbs, because they want to stay with a real person versus in a hotel, right? And so they also want to know, like, who is this person that I'm going to be staying with? So the more you communicate about yourself, the better the chance that the potential guest can sort of relate to you and get to know you a little bit. And I think that really improves the chance that you get a booking inquiry. And you really want to write as much as possible, because you never know what catches the reader's eye, right? So more is definitely better, but do at least like 3 or 4 paragraphs. Write a little bit about yourself, about your hobbies, about your interests, and also talk a little bit about why you're an Airbnb host. What do you love about Airbnb? All right, moving on to references. Now, references are not that important, I think, especially if you have reviews. But if you're just starting out and you don't have any reviews yet, it is important to build a little bit of trust, and you can do that by adding some references. It's better to have a couple people who are vouching for you than to have nothing at all. Now, if you want me to look at your listing, my service is available on Fiverr. You just go to fiverr.com. So Fiverr it's Fiverr, and if you search for Airbnb, my service will be on the number 1 spot. It has a thumbnail of a video that I recorded. So it's just $5, and I'll send you a custom report. I'm probably gonna bump the price soon, because it takes me about 10-15 minutes to go through your listing, and so $5 is not a lot of money, especially since Fiverr takes $1. So I only make $4 per listing. So I'm gonna bump the price at some point, but I just wanted to do it now for people in the community, and also to sort of build my reputation on Fiverr, so that I can sell more Airbnb related services later. All right, so moving on to the next topic, which is the next version of the book. So I've been writing a lot recently, and I get a lot of emails from people in the Airbnb community with questions. And I've also Airbnb has changed a lot of stuff on the website, and so the book that was launched in August 2014, I feel like it's a little bit outdated now. So I want to update it. And I'm adding a lot of extra content. And some of the stuff that I'm going to be adding is I'm going to talk about, I have a chapter specifically for Airbnb hosts who are renting their place. Because there's a difference between renting and owning, right? If you're renting your place, you have to deal with your landlord, which can be quite tricky. So I'm going to get into that. I'm also going to talk about areas where there's not so much like tourist visits, areas that are sort of outside the major cities and tourist areas. So that's a question that I get from a lot of people. They say, well, I'd love to do Airbnb, but I don't think if my location is very good, I don't think if there's a lot of visitors to my area. So I'm going to talk about how you can figure out if there's demand, and also what you can do if there's not enough demand on Airbnb, like how you can list on some other platforms as well. I'm also going to dive into some taxes and legal issues. Specifically taxes, I'm going to talk about taxes in the US. I can't really talk about taxes in every country because that would be too much. But since most people in the community are from the US, I decided to do a chapter on taxes for US hosts. So we're going to talk about how you can deduct expenses. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a lot of expenses that you can deduct. I'm also going to talk about some creative ways to do Airbnb. And I'm going to talk about what you can do to make your Airbnb business safer. And, this is a big concern for people who are just starting out. They are worried that people are going to destroy their house or steal their stuff. So I'm going to give some tips on how you can sort of minimize the chance that will happen. Now, that's not all. I'm adding like a lot of other stuff as well, but these are sort of like the main points that I wanted to mention. Now, I also want to mention that, as you know, I interview people on this podcast, right? I interview Airbnb hosts. And if you want to be a guest on the show, then all you need to do is send me an email at jasper@getpaidforyourpet.com and include a short overview of your Airbnb experience. And maybe just mention why you think that your experience would be interesting for the listeners. Because I'm always looking to share interesting stories. So feel free to reach out to me. And in general, if you have a question, you can always email me. I always love hearing from everybody, and I'm getting emails on a daily basis now, which is really cool. I'm very grateful for that. I reply to every single email within 24 hours. So even if you don't have a question, but you just want to say hi, feel free to send me an email. The last thing I want to mention is I'm doing a daily video. It's called a vlog on my Facebook page, not on the Get Paid for Your Pet Facebook page, but on my Travelling Dutchman Facebook page. So I also have a travel blog for those who don't know. It's called the Travelling Dutchman. And, I've been traveling for the last 6 years. So I haven't had a home, so to speak, for the last 6 years. I mean, I do have my apartment in Amsterdam, of course, that I rent out, but I'm only there like 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year. So, the biggest part of the year I'm traveling, and I'm often traveling together with other people. There's a whole community now. They're called digital nomads. And these are people that work from their laptop, just like I do. And they make their money that way. And, they just stay typically in warm countries. Like right now I'm in Thailand, Koh Lanta. I'm actually doing a co-working camp with 15 other digital nomads. So it's really cool. We're kind of like helping each other out with our businesses and doing all sorts of cool activities. But I want to give people a bit of an insight of like what does that life look like when you're constantly on the road. So I decided to record one video a day, and I don't do any editing. I literally just take out my iPhone and start recording. And it could be anything random. Like today, I recorded a small video because I ran into this really cool hermit crab. And hermit crabs are really awesome. These are crabs that they carry around a little shell that they can crawl back into. and it is extremely cute. So I picked it up and I was just talking about it for a while. But if you want to check out my videos, go to the travelingdutchman.com. No, not travelingdutchman.com. You go to my Facebook page, which is called The Traveling Dutchman. Or you can also go to my YouTube channel, which is also called The Traveling Dutchman as well. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show and thank you for listening. And of course, next week on Monday, I'll be back with another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad.
Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get